right, thank you guys for joining us for another episode of Black Coffee and Crime. This is episode 37, where we're going to talk about the most prolific serial killer in American history, Mr. Samuel Little. So we'll go into details about his recall, his ability to recall almost every single murder, the women that he drew, and his his MO, like his modus operandi. Why did he do this thing? So we'll talk about that and a few other stories. But we'll get started now. I am eating the rest of Valentine chocolates. Um, I don't know if this is good or I just needed a piece of chocolate. I don't know. Oh, oh,
You fine.
well, it's the one with like the
It wasn't my favorite.
strawberry cream or something in it. I ate the good ones.
The nougat? What about the nougat or caramel or
I like the
plus?
truffle ones.
Oh, those are good.
Yeah, I ate those already.
Those are good. Oh, you already okay.
I poked in them.
It didn't come with a paper? Because some of them
Yeah.
come with a paper and tell you everything.
On
Like,
on the back of it, it's like a little paper, but I poked a hole in them and smashed some of them so I could know which ones was which. It's hard. It's my box. Ain't nobody else got to eat it. It's my box.
okay.
All right. So again, this is Black Coffee and Crime. This week is just Jackie and I. Brandy is on the sick and shut in list. So we'll go ahead and get into the church announcements. Now, these are announcements as follows. We're going to start with send your girl some prayers. Right now, she has a pain in her chest and she can't breathe. So go ahead and send her some prayers out. She'll be back.
Please
Not,
do.
not next week because next week is Easter and we are going to enjoy our families and all of that and allow you to do the same. And we'll be back the following week in April. Also, church announcements, as we do every week, we do want to let you know that this show is just us being nosy and us talking about crime and current events and things like that. We're not law enforcement professionals, so we may mess up on what we say. The information that we have, we may miss some, but you can always let us know what we miss or suggestions or anything like that at info@blackcoffeecrime.com. You can also hit us up on Instagram and Facebook at Black Coffee Crime. Also, we're not doing this to be malicious. So if you are a family member, friend, know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who knew the victim or even the suspect or perpetrator of the crime, we're not really digging too much into their lives like that. We're just the things that we find on public record. Those are the things that we talk about. We're very conversational here. This is completely unscripted. So if we go off the rails, that's just because we're having conversation. So that's what we do here. Do we have any other church announcements? Anything?
No, just respect your pastor then.
Yes, respect your pastor and obey your ushers. And also, if anybody in the DFW area know where I can get some Girl Scout cookies, hit your girl up. I ain't seen a Girl Scout.
Let me tell you what I had to do because there aren't any. First, I went on the website and realized that they are in set locations on certain days. So I did that. Went up there to Kroger because I was determined to give me some Thin Mints.
And what happened?
And a Girl Scout inside order off the website. I ordered off the website.
But the shipping is like
Crazy.
$9. But you know what's bad though? Is this a Girl Scout of America? Girl, I would surpass your 5 boxes. I would make your 5 boxes look like nothing.
They're so good.
I would make your 5 boxes look like nothing because as soon as I get them home, my daughter's gonna confiscate 2. Automatically. But I live down the street from the Girl Scouts of America headquarters. And I don't even see Girl Scouts over there. They ain't even selling cookies over there. So if y'all got to hook up, if you have a little girl in the DFW area, let me know. I'm willing to travel in Dallas to come and get some cookies. Trust me. I like the Thin Mints. I like the Thin Mints. And I like the Thin Mints. Okay?
Thin Mints.
That's what I like. And I'm willing to store them up like a big giant black squirrel. Okay. That's what I'm going to do. So those are announcements as follows. Again, please obey your ushers and respect your pastor. We're going to go ahead and get into the show. All right. So like I said, Brandy's not here this week. So it's going to be me and Jackie to plow through this. Now, You sent me a story this week about, we're gonna start. It starts off all bad. A mother, a young mother who left her child at
Mhm.
home so she can go party. But how old was this baby that she left?
She was 19 and the baby was 20 months old, and she left the baby at home for 6 days to celebrate her birthday. And the baby, of course, died from malnutrition, obviously, and starvation and dehydration, all those things, obviously. Um, I was pissed. And she's in London, a London mother. I am pissed. You can't, you can't possibly be that. You can't be that
That desperate to go have a
desperate. Yeah, I
six
couldn't.
days.
And then I'm also because you need to tell me not one, because that baby's crying. She's screaming. She's in pain. You not one, not a person passing the street, not one person for 6 days heard her.
But we live in such times that, one, we're so unaffected by things now that we listen, we hear, but then we don't hear. And then also we don't know what the reaction of someone, like we can't even freely come to someone's aid anymore, especially when it comes to their kids, because when we do, it's like, you can't tell me what to do with my kids and things like that. So it's horrible that this baby was I, hungry, um, wet and dirty, and all of those things. And we don't leave our plants for 6 days. Like, you send someone to your house to to water your plants. You send someone to your house to make sure they take your dogs out, um, clean up behind your animals. But you left a baby, not even 2 years old. What was she supposed to do? Has the mom been, what charges has the mom been brought up on?
I think I want to say manslaughter. Hold on, let me double check though. Manslaughter. It was manslaughter. I feel like it's torturous. That's
Could be
torture.
more. I mean,
Any
I don't
to a human to be tortured to death, because she's tortured to death.
I don't know
Um,
if it's first degree murder,
they
but
said manslaughter. That's it. But it's because she entered into. I'm sorry, she entered into a guilty plea, so they're doing it as manslaughter.
so they just probably gave her some sort of deal. Well, I hope that.
One other thing. She's a runner. I haven't seen her since she was 14. And when they found out about what happened, the mother and the father,
Mhm.
here they are. They found out. Okay, y'all found. Not only did you find our daughter, but we're finding out that she did this because they went to. She reached out to her parents once things hit the fan.
Mm,
So yeah, she had been missing for 5 years.
that's crazy. That's
Isn't
crazy.
that crazy?
I in cases like this, I don't want to wish death on anybody. One, because it's a wasted wish, because it's going to come to everybody. So I don't need to wish that for you. But I wish her to have the most torturous life possible, the most miserable life possible. I know she's 19, but even at 19, you have common sense and a sense of
Okay.
humanity, and she didn't exhibit that. So if we
Nope.
can send young men to the death penalty for shootings and things like that, then you can send those same wishes to this young mother.
Yes, you
Period.
can.
So
Period.
you can get mad if you want to, but I can promise you I don't care.
She don't. Not even a little bit.
No, not at all. Not at all. So you can come for me. info@blackcoffeecrime.com and Black Coffee Crime on Instagram and Facebook.
Uh, there's too much. There's another way to look at it. I mean, it's stupid to think that she deserves something. I mean, just look at it this way. Because I hate when people, like you said, I don't want to wish death on anybody, but you definitely need to be tortured. She's not here no more. That baby not here. She was tortured.
Yep.
She was tortured. She's not here.
Oh, I hope she had the time of her life wherever she was.
Mhm.
Um, you could have dropped that baby off at a hospital, a police
Anyway,
station, anywhere.
anyway.
Yeah, you left. You could have left her in the grocery cart at Kroger. Yet you left her at home to her own devices. I mean, if the child was 5, she might have a standing chance because she, uh, pour some milk in a bowl with some cereal. But at not even 2,
Even two.
just doesn't have the skills to do anything but be a baby. So I have no sympathy for her and whatever happens to her.
Not even none.
All right. So all right. So yeah, we have no sympathy for whatever happens to that young mom. Now, this very interesting story out of North Carolina. Y'all, North Carolina is tripping, okay? Um, there's a little boy, 6 years old, who was arrested for picking a tulip from the bus stop. One flower, one single flower. He was arrested for picking a tulip. It got so far, so many hands touched this, that it got so far as the district judge that had to dismiss it. The little boy was in court and they had to give him a coloring book and some crayons because he didn't know what was going on. 6 years old. This is an article from the Inquirer.net. This is from the article. It says, while the child may not fully understand the situation, many argue that this may change the boy's life for the worse. Yeah. One, because now he's in the system. Whether or not you dismissed it, his name is in there. 2, now he has a distrust of police because the people in his life are going to feed into that distrust quite naturally. Okay, so he was apparently arrested by the school resource officer.
This makes no sense.
This is the way this goes. So he got served with papers. His mom got served with papers. It ended up with him being before a judge.
This makes
before being dismissed. Now, North Carolina is crazy state here. There are, from 2015 to 2018, according to this article, there were 7,300 complaints against 6 to 11-year-old kids.
Babies?
7,000 complaints against 6 to 11-year-old kids. North Carolina is one of the states where the youngest children can be arrested and charged with crimes in North Carolina.
What's wrong?
I don't understand. It's a flower. So the arresting officer, what do you say to that? Like, somebody's like, I want them arrested for picking a flower.
Why? Who has that kind of time? Well, Brandy, when we were discussing like what we were going to bring, I am really like confused. Is it a law? Just telling me.
What was the charge? Something against real property, theft against real property?
Yes.
Or something like that.
Theft against real
property. Or destruction of real property. I mean, are these prize tulips? Are they imported? Are they on the historic registry?
Yeah. What is it? What is it about the tulips?
What's this flower? And what type of person?
Oh, injury to real property.
What type of person are you that you want to call the police on a 6-year-old and say they picked up a flower out of my garden?
It's even worse if it was at a public bus stop.
How does it even get to the district attorney to even pick that up? Like, how do we even get to the point where we're served papers to where somebody's like, this is who? To get this out of my office. Get this off my desk. I don't get this out of my office. No one says that. It has to go all the way to the judge and the taxpayers.
No one says that at all.
Money for this, for me to dismiss this from a. If I was a judge, I would be castigating everybody from all the way down. Everybody who touched this, I need to talk to them in my chambers right now.
Yes.
Everybody.
Yes.
This is ridiculous.
And anybody that's dealt with any child, especially if it's your child, is say, here, I got you something. So I don't know. I'm really baffled by this. I just don't know what he did. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
Like,
it's crazy.
And where's the mother? What's she doing? Is she fighting?
He was served with papers too, because of course he's a minor. It didn't say anything about who called or the person, the complainant. Um, but hopefully they don't have grandkids. They don't have children. Because how do you explain that? Like, because you, how do you explain that? There's a similar story, and I cannot find the source for this story, but it was a similar story that I saw last night, and I should have noted it. But a 5-year-old apparently broke a computer at school or something, and he got scared and tried to leave the campus. If you guys could see the video, and I pray that I can find this again. This poor child, 5 years old in kindergarten, was treated so poorly. He was yelled at by the police. Yelled at. Um, they are mishandling him physically. He's crying, and they're wondering why he's crying. It's horrible over a broken computer. First of all, if it's at the school, then it's a school computer. Teachers, y'all didn't pay for that out of your own pocket, like directly. It can be replaced. And if he ran away, how did he get out of the school? Because that means y'all waxing y'all security.
Right.
And it's probably because he's scared. Because when kids break things,
Terrified.
they want to run. I just don't understand how
He's
normal childhood behavior becomes criminal, or who becomes criminal with normal childhood behavior. Who is it that becomes a criminal? As we saw in Rochester, we keep bringing up this story in Rochester with the 9-year-old girl, and the officers, he's manhandling her and with the pepper spray and all that, and he's like, "You're acting like a child." And the 9-year-old has to remind the officer, "I am a child." That was a little
remind him. She has to remind him.
And
yes,
it's those things. And I know, people say you guys always pull the race card. Well, yeah, we probably do, but we don't even have to pull the race card. It is what it is. It is what it is.
There's it right there, Randy.
We don't have to pull it.
We don't have to. It's there. We don't have to.
It's there.
It's right. It's right there.
Out there. You don't want to talk about it. That's fine. But it doesn't change that's what that is. But yeah, unfortunately, these are not stories that we won't talk about.
Ridiculous.
And unfortunately, we'll probably be talking about them again in the next couple of weeks because there'll be something new. I
saw somebody say, quote, no one is faulting, she said, no one is faulting white culture for having white privilege. What we're faulting you is understanding that we will never have that privilege just because of the color of our skin. We're not saying you never went through nothing. We're not saying that, but you don't go the things we go through just because of your skin.
You're black.
What we're friends go through that. We're talking about just because of my skin tone. You won't go through what I go through.
Right. And that's prejudice, and that's bigotry, is that you will treat me differently simply because of what I look like, not necessarily because what I've said, what I've done, none of that. So, we'll be talking about those things soon. I'm trying not to get my watch to go off. All right, so let's talk about Samuel Little. This dude, up until 2012, when he was captured, no one knew that this guy was doing. Okay, so they knew that someone was killing these women. What they didn't know was that they were all connected, and they were all from one single killer, and that killer was Samuel Little, who had a crime span of about 45 years. This man was killing for about 45 years.
It's not funny. It's just like surprising. Like he was getting away with.
This is a career. Like this. He
was getting away.
Career span that you draw pension from. Like, and he got away with all of it.
Yes.
45 years. So from 1970 to 2005 was his killing period, and he was captured in 2012, and he was already
74, 72 or 74, one of those.
He was in the 70s when he was captured. So just a little background on Samuel Little. We're not going to go through all of the murders or anything like that because it's a lot. And quite frankly, Samuel Little has been featured on lots of crime shows, podcasts, and things like that. So we don't want to inundate you when we do certain stories that have that you've seen other places that we've seen, because that's why we're talking about it. That we've seen other places. We don't want to give you an exact timeline of all of this because you've probably seen it. We want to talk about certain things and the things that caught our attention. So if there's details that we miss, it's not because we didn't know them. It's just that is a lot, and we don't want to keep you here for 4 hours talking about everything about Samuel Little. But basically, he was born in Georgia in 1940. He said that his mom was a prostitute, so maybe that's the reason why he had this hatred or whatever towards women. He did pass away in December of 2020, so
just past
4 months ago. He died at 80 years old in Los Angeles, California. Now, he was suspected. He claimed 93 kills. Over 60 of those, the victims have been found and confirmed. But get this man killed from LA to the south, all the way to the north. So
yes,
all the way through the west, southwest, southeast, and the northeast on these killing sprees. And he just moved around. Now, one of the things about that when watching the videos, because he's watching the videos of Samuel Little, he's very conversational, and he's in his confessions and his recollections of his murders, he just says them really matter of fact, like he's telling the story. Like he looks like someone's uncle. That's the way he's telling the story. Like he's telling the best story of his past or times gone by. He has like 93 murders out there. This makes him
93 confirmed, because 90, at least 90 confirmed. 90.
This
right?
This makes him the most prolific serial killer in American history. Now there are killers that Gary Ridgway, Green River Killer, long killing period. Ted Bundy, long killing period. As far as serial killers go, just to name a few. But this guy went way past that. Once they started connecting the dots, they're getting him to confess. He was so old, basically, that he was convicted in California, certain time in Los Angeles, that they were doing depositions and hearings and things via Skype and video chat, and they're having people from other states. He was also in Texas. He was here in Texas as well. They're having people from other states come and interview him because they have a similar murder, and they wanted him to tell him. So these Texas Rangers catch him in 2012, and they're like, they want to talk about the murder that they know about. Well, he's like, all right, for 7 hours, he gives details upon detail upon detail. This man remembered things as far as the height, the age of his victims.
Yes, weight.
What they had on. He remembered where he picked them up at. He remembers conversations, details from conversations that he was having with these women. Like one of the women in New Orleans, where he tells, and this was from, I want to say this was one from like 1983 or 84, in New Orleans. He talks about how that particular victim was talking about her sister's birthday party. And then he says how he left her in the water, like he drove her away, and he found like a creek or something, And he says that they asked him the question, like, where did you leave her? Or how did you leave her? He's like, her head is in the water and her
Yep.
mouth is sticking out of
Legs
the
out.
water, and her legs are sticking, like her thighs and her, like he's telling you
On the
exactly
bank.
how this woman was positioned on the bank of this river or whatever. And he
His
doesn't.
only drowned victim.
Yeah, he said that was his only drowning victim.
That's crazy.
Jungle. Yeah, it's chilling because he doesn't have a real sinister look in his eye. He doesn't look menacing. He's very animated and engaging in these interviews. And you're fascinated because he's telling a story. Like, he's a great storyteller. And at certain times he smiles and he snickers, which is, again,
Creepy.
off-putting because he's describing someone's murder. And he's not outright laughing, but it's like an inside joke for him. You can tell that killing brought him a lot of pleasure because he's reliving all of that.
That's what it is, Brandon. It's an inside joke for him. I know something.
Yeah, I know something, and I'm letting you in on a little secret, and this is what happened. And he's kind of happy. I think that's the reason why in those interviews, like, he just kind of let loose and told everything, because finally, after 40 years, I can tell my story. Like, I don't have to keep all of this to myself. I can tell people what I've been doing, and isn't it great? Now, one of the victims, 1972, was Marianne. I don't know if you saw that particular video or snippet of when that part of the confession. He's talking about Marianne, who was a black male transgender, age 19. And that's where it caught me, to the amount of detail that this man could give.
Yeah.
And it's kind of those, cops, or law enforcement, they usually won't tell the press, or they won't give all the details about a particular crime, because they want to keep something back just in case they do catch someone, so that when there's a confession, only the killer would know this information. He gave so much detail that he basically was rewriting the crime file, because the law enforcement was like, wow, this is exactly how we found him. And how would you know? And the Marianne one from 1972, he talked about how he drove away from Miami into Fort Lauderdale, what road he took. He took a left here, he took a right here, he went up the hill over here, he went down here, and there was a slope here. And he described the slope that he pushed Marianne down into. And he said, well, no, it really wasn't a slope. It was more of I forget the word he used. He said, but you wouldn't even know it was a slope, because it was deceptive in the way that it was constructed or whatever. And when he rolled her down in there, it's very chilling. And hopefully I might be able to embed some of the video into this show, or if not, I'll definitely upload that to Facebook and Instagram, so you can see
his videos. Like, they're even saying, like, it's compared to listening to your grandfather tell you stories. Like, I would never. All I think, I must be reliving these moments every single second of his life, just reliving them over and over and over and over and over and over. In order to sit there and have that kind of, you just constantly, like, he enjoyed it.
Well, let me tell you how much he enjoyed it. One of the law enforcement, I don't know if it was a U.S. attorney or a police officer, but they were interviewing him. And the Texas Rangers would tell them exactly what to say to him to get him to talk. Like, you had to talk to him about the murder that he was willing to talk about. You know what I mean? So if you said that we have this woman, this age, you had to talk about that particular woman. If you wanted some other, brought in some other evidence, or, say, hey, did you do this one as well? He would shut down. So they told him, they would tell the people exactly what to say, how to talk to him, how to get information. Well, one thing they noticed was that like you said, he enjoyed retelling the stories. Well, he would become sexually aroused during those interviews.
What?
He would be visibly aroused, and they said that they noticed. Now, this was from one of the. There was the documentary on the Oxygen Channel that I was watching, and I will definitely pin this part because it's very interesting. But they say that he was getting aroused while he was telling the stories, and his hands would never be on top of the table, and that he would manipulate himself while giving the interviews. And
Child. What? I didn't even see that.
I'll send you the link.
If I saw it, that would be my reaction right there. Because I
This
just
is
know.
just them talking about it. They didn't actually show him doing this.
Right.
But this is the guy telling about his experience while he was interviewing him. And he said he purposely sat away from him so that he wouldn't have to see, but his hands were under the table and they knew what he was doing. And they kind of let it happen because they still wanted this information. So as sick and morbid and nasty as that was, you have to sit through this guy manipulating himself while he's talking about his methods of killing. Now,
He nasty.
I'm gonna tell you about this crazy experience and how this relates to this. Okay. So I was a baby, about 15, 16 years old, and I was walking with a friend through to go to the store, like a swap meet or whatever. So we left my grandmother's house. We're just walking straight through this alley, and the alley ended up into the swap meet area. And because they at some point just made the residential area into a commercial area. So we're walking, and this guy is in this car. He's asking for directions. Now he's in the alley, but it's a really wide open alley. It's not there at this point. And he's in the car, and I'm standing lower than his car was, but my friend was standing up ahead of me so she could see what he was doing. So he's asking for directions, and he's like, she wasn't from my neighborhood, so she didn't know how to tell this guy to go where he needed to go. So he's talking to me. I'm talking back to him. He's like, why do I get here? And I'm like, okay, you want to do this, and you want to go over here, you want to go over here, you want to go over here. And so she's giving me this look like, come on. And I was like, okay, yeah, but what I didn't know, but that she could see, was that he was also masturbating while he was talking to me. But I couldn't see that.
What?
So while
Why?
I don't know. Crazy looking dude in the car, and I didn't see it
Because he thought you were attractive.
I don't know. I was like 16. I don't know. I mean, I wasn't a naive 16-year-old. I just couldn't see what he was doing.
He thought he was attracted to you. It was
Maybe he was just a pedophile, a creep. I don't know.
Yeah. You just talk away.
I'm glad that my friend was there. That there were two of us. But it's crazy that someone if I had I seen that, I would have been completely grossed out at 16. Like, at my age now, I'm like, man, go take that nasty shit somewhere. But at 16, I don't want to see that. But at that age, we're completely grossed out and traumatized. Like,
Completely.
Ugh. But here you have Samuel Little in this office with these people, and y'all are not even saying, man, put that away, because you want your purpose is greater than your sense of being grossed out. I guess you're not even worried about being grossed out because you want this information. You want him to talk about it. If you were in that, what would you do?
I'm like, No, we're not doing that today. We're not doing that today. You can do that when you get back.
That's when you get the an usher. Just here, use this. That's just nasty. I can't.
I couldn't do it. Which I just didn't. I would be grossed out, and I'm an adult. I would be grossed out completely.
Yeah, that was that when I was watching that, I was like,
That's nasty. Because he was his 70s.
he was confessing to these crimes from 2012 to 2018. So all the way. So he had years talking about the crimes. One of the things also, besides his total recall in detail, was a way that they knew, um, a way to tie him to these murders was that he actually made paintings and drawings of these women from memory. Now, a lot of these women, uh, were transients, drug addicts, and prostitutes, so they were on the fringes of society. So, um, their assaults went and their murders went underreported, or if they were prostitutes, maybe their families hadn't had contact with them for a long time anyway. So maybe no one knew that they were missing. Um, and so they were able to identify a lot of the victims because of his recall of the details and also him drawing the women. They weren't like photo, it wasn't photorealism, but they were close enough. Excuse me. They were close enough to where they knew that this is the woman, he did this. And this is for, I mean, he claimed 93 and they are attributing him to 93, but over 60 of those are absolutely confirmed murders.
Yep. Nasty.
And he strangled all but one. He strangled them. Um, he strangled them because there was something about the neck of a woman that aroused him. Like that was his body part. Like I look at a man's hands. Like a man's hands are just wow. Like I look at somebody's hands and I'm like, ooh, wow.
Arms.
And
I'm an artist girl.
Oh, the forearm when they got all the veins.
That's not really going to be understood.
Yeah, that forearm vein thing is, yes. So everyone has their part, you know what I mean? So that in and of itself is not weird but he was completely aroused by that. So most of the time, it wasn't even a sexual assault. It was the strangulation that would arouse him. And that's how he got off, was because he would strangle them. And what he would do is he would strangle them to the point of death, then stop so they could bring themselves back. And then he kept doing that. So he would strangle you until you almost were dead and then stop and rinse and repeat over and over. And then he would finally kill you. There were a couple of women who got away. And that's how they kind of knew that that's what he was trying to do. But even they didn't talk because they might have been runaways. And I mean, let's face it, here, even in 2021, women don't report, personal crimes or violence against them, whether it's a domestic violence or sexual assault, because women are less likely to be believed. And then if you are a drug addict or a transient or anybody on the fringes of society, what's considered normal society, then your chances of being believed in your crime being prosecuted is, slim. Like super, super, super slim. So you're talking about 30, 40 years ago. Of course they weren't going to say anything. They weren't even going to be looking for these women.
Except for Lori. I thought this is probably one of the this is one of the weirdest things I read. Mm-hmm. So in 1984, when he strangled and kidnapped Lori, while they're looking for him, they find him in the back seat of a car with another. So not only are they looking for you for the crime that you committed, they have caught you in the act. And yeah, he still
got away with it.
Got away with it. Got away with 2 murders. Prior to, prior to, got away with 2 murders. 2.
And he was doing it.
served only 2 years for a murder. I mean,
Do you think that had it been a murder of a man, that he would have gotten more time, or a murder of a woman who had a better social standing, that he would have gotten more time?
yes, I do. I believe that a lot of times, women of the night, that's what my daddy calls them. Women of the night are, it's sad. At the end of the day, they still deserve justice. They deserve respect. And people often use them as throwaways, drug addicts are throwaways, prostitutes throwaways. So they don't like, so why? Why we put in the time? No one cares. Not knowing the whole time they make 9 times out of 10 actually. They have a whole family in the background that they love them so much that they're giving them money. I know I got these families. They're my family.
Mm-hmm.
They will give that $400 to help you because they just love you so much. So
when you're living that type of a life, they kind of don't expect you to show up. And so when they miss you for 6 or 7 months at a time, that becomes normal. And unfortunately, in that sense of normalcy, we'll miss people, and something may have happened, but we won't question it because they're normally gone for 6 or 7 months, 5, 6 months at a time. So if something happens to them during those periods, we're not going to question it, you know. Or even if they don't come back, we're like, well, you know, they were out there. Hopefully
they'll come home.
They'll come home if they need to, but sometimes they don't come home
when they're ready, you know.
Yeah.
But either way it goes, they're just thrown away. Just horrible. They're so thrown away.
Yeah.
You need to find a perfect. Read on Skid Row. Read about it. Please pull it up. Read about it. You want to be heartbroken? Read about
Skid Row.
Yes.
Like Reno, Nevada.
Skid Row. Is Skid Row?
Oh, in LA.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's bad.
It's bad.
I don't know about this one.
Where are they? They're like peanut butter. They look like peanut butter.
I don't know.
If y'all can't tell already, in Texas, pollen count is at 0, and my allergies are at 100 zillion trillion, as well as brain.
Oh yeah, my allergies is already bad. Oh,
because if you know that she's been doing it bad.
Usually it's towards the end of the show.
She's been doing it worse. Today she's been doing it a lot more.
Usually it's towards the end of the show, but even before we turn the camera on, my nose was running. And like Jackie said, the pollen count's high. I wash my car. Like every time I wash my car, it rains within 2 days. Every single day. So last week, my dad had to borrow my car. And he got tired of looking at it because it was looking how it was looking. I don't care. If I put gas in it and the inside's clean, I don't really care what the outside looks like. So he's like, oh, I washed your car. And I was like, well, thank you. 2 things happened within 48 hours. My car is parked, and all of the pollen from the trees, my car had like a yellow tint on it, okay? Like within the day. And then a day later, it rained. Go figure. So bear with us for the next the entire spring season, please. No, let's not even say spring, because we're talking about all the way through summer. It's gonna be pretty bad.
Yeah. Oh, summer gonna be real bad.
It's gonna be bad as hell. So you were saying about Skid Row in LA. Have you ever seen it?
I never been. When I went to LA, of course, most people try to take you on the tourist type version. I would have wanted to. I'm not even gonna lie. But then at the same point, I wouldn't have, because I would have been sad about it.
No, you're not gonna be sad. You're gonna be scared as hell. Okay.
Yeah, well, scared because I'm being a D. I mean, it's sad because I'm being a D.
Let me tell you,
I'm not bold enough to go over there.
Skid Row is its own mini city within the city. The homeless population in Los Angeles is crazy. I mean, it is crazy. Like every um, off ramp or on ramp, you see someone homeless under the underpasses as you're going down the street. You see camps, you see tents everywhere, and then you get to see. And coincidentally, the Cecil Hotel is on Skid Row. That's where Lisa Lamb was in the tower, and Richard Ramirez stayed, and all those serial killers were living there. You know, serial killer haven there is on Skid Row, like Skid Row's across the street, like right there. But
Wait,
it's
wait,
not,
wait. Did we talk about that documentary? I know that's so random. Did we talk about it?
not really,
Okay, just go ahead.
not really.
I know
Not,
that's so random, but I was like, did we talk about that?
nah, I think we
Because,
talked about
I
it
got a
amongst
whole nother
ourselves.
outlet.
Yeah, we talked about it amongst ourselves, but I don't think we talked about it, on record or whatever. But yeah, so Skid Row is right there, and you just imagine the types of crimes that happen within that in the homeless community against women, and the fact that since they're homeless, are they going to have access to police and law enforcement and healthcare and all those things for those things to be prosecuted? And these were the types of women that Samuel Little would go to, because he was smart enough to know no one's going to miss these ladies. No one's going to miss them. And I don't know if he said, now, one of the things he said that his mother was a prostitute. So you have to kind of think, like, is this
And she wasn't that big of an influence in his life.
Yeah, he was
his
raised by a
grandmother.
grandmother.
Yeah, so makes you wonder, does that have something to do with him targeting prostitutes or them being one of his demographic? And I know also if someone is paying attention to what we said and we found out that he gets aroused, that is a common thing, that people are aroused by the things that hurt them growing up. It's quite a interesting path.
Yes. Gary Ridgway. We talk a lot about Gary Ridgway. We got to do this Green River Killer, because y'all, this is another killer who killed for about 20 years. But Gary Ridgway said that his mother used to bring her Johns or bring men home, and that he would be in the same room while she would service them. And she was quite abusive to him. Arthur Shawcross, the Genesee River Killer, and from New York, he said something similar. Was that a female family member, maybe it was his mom or his aunt, that basically raped him and performed oral surgery, oral copulation on him when he was like 8, 9 years old. And so he killed some kids, and then he also killed prostitutes as well. So you have these killers who have a certain victimology or victims, and that's because you can Henry Lee Lucas. His mom. He shot his mama. Did he kill his mama?
Mm-hmm.
He killed his mama, but she used to dress him in girls' clothes.
Yep.
And she would sexually abuse him. He was having sex with animals, all kinds of stuff. And then he would go out and do all kinds of atrocious things to women. So it's kind of like you said, the thing that hurt them the most is what they do to other women. Like, they see that person in other women, and these women are punished because not only was this done to me, but this was done by someone who was a prostitute or treated me as such. And so because you're that, then I'm going to punish you for it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he did. I don't know. Like, I think we have an image of what a serial killer looks like. And during the 70s and 80s, this was serial killer, a period where there was all kinds of serial killers. This is the period when the term was actually coined and all of that. But one thing that a serial killer did not look like was a black man. Because the thought is always been held that black people aren't
Don't do that. Yeah, won't do that.
It's not that black people aren't serial killers, and we've talked about that. It's just that no one thinks that black people are serial killers, and then in our communities, we don't report things. We don't report rape. So we have Black serial rapists that will live in the neighborhood of their victims. And that victim will have to walk past that house every day on the way home from school or from the grocery store. We won't say anything. And also,
So function. Yeah.
we know that that killer is in our neighborhood, but we won't say anything because we at all costs, we want to protect, because we are more afraid of what the police will do to that person than what that person will do to our community.
Oh, that is so true.
We want to protect that person, a Black person, from the police so bad that we will allow them to exist with us rather than report them, because we're more afraid of the police than we are of the actual killer. That's crazy as hell.
That's some crazy.
So that's why people like Samuel Little and the Grim Sleeper and all these guys can, because they're coming out of the woodwork, and they're coming out of the woodwork, and these guys are not being caught when they're in their prime. They're not caught when they're in their 30s or 40s. These men are in their 50s and 60s, and in the case of Samuel Little, in their 70s, and they've had a career spanning 50, 30, 40 years before they're caught, because their victims, one, the killer's Black, and then their victims are Black women. Well, let's start women of color, ladies of the night, transient and homeless women, or drug addicts. So these are all on the fringes. Their demographic is all on the fringes. And so the police aren't really looking into those crimes. And then you're also not looking for a Black guy, because Black people don't do serial killing. We don't do serial killings. We don't do that. And so that's what the police think too. They're not looking for this Black dude.
They really aren't.
They are looking for the Black killers that they are looking for. Black male killers are drug dealers, gang leaders, gang members, things like that.
Yep.
Those are the guys that they're looking for, because those are the guys that are
not a serial killer. Yeah, definitely not.
A drug dealer is visible. A gang member is visible. They've probably got a record of how long. And so those are the guys that are looking for. Those are the ones that are easy to pick. But a Black person who really doesn't have that much of a record, or a violent record, and is able to just kind of weave in and out of different places in society and move along and just do regular stuff, they're not looking for that guy.
Nope.
And the only thing that separates Samuel Little from Ted Bundy is his skin color.
That's it. That's it.
That's it. That is it. Because you have, like you said, in that case, they had the serial killer in the palm of their hand. Yet he didn't fit the profile.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't fit the profile of what y'all were looking for. Because I'm quite sure when the FBI came in to give a profile of this guy, they had the profilers come in. He's probably a white guy in his mid-30s, 5'8" to 6 feet tall, and wheat colored hair, and blah blah blah. And Sam Little is the complete opposite of that.
Complete opposite. He looked like he's short.
He looks like he was not too tall, but he looked like he was a thick set.
Yeah, like a thick set.
You weren't gonna get away from him. I'm telling you that. Because even his pictures, as an old man, it doesn't look like he was gonna get away from him. He looked like a strong dude sitting in a wheelchair. And then you see pictures of him as a young man. Oh no, you ain't gonna get away from that dude.
No. Yeah, he looked crazy.
Was he I wasn't so focused on his occupation. Was he a truck driver or something like that? Is that how
I think so. I think he was a truck driver. I think he was a truck driver.
There are other serial killers. There's a serial killer who has not been captured yet, who was killing women in Ohio. Which, crazily enough,
maybe him.
Maybe him, because one of his best stomping grounds, and one place that he's very fond of, is Ohio. But the one that they haven't captured yet was
maybe him. And you
may very well be him. Maybe one of the 93 that he claimed. Or more. And I wish that Brandy was here, because she's very, very, very passionate about Samuel Little, way more than Jackie and I were, because I think this was one of the stories that in the last few years we heard a lot about Samuel Little, a lot. So we don't necessarily want to do stories that or talk about people that have been in the media for a long time.
Mhm.
Or approach it from the same direction that everyone. So it's very hard to come up with a different approach, a different perspective, because if we watched the Oxygen Channel, we watched Discovery ID, we watched all of these other podcasts, which are wonderful, great, giving information, talking about this. One, we don't want to say anything that they have already said, and so it's very hard to come up with a different perspective, which is the reason why we didn't go into detail about each victim.
Right.
This is why we're talking about the things that we're talking about, because we want to have a different perspective. And that goes for all of the cases that we do and all the people that we talked about. We don't necessarily want to give you information that you may already know or seen. Only in the cases that it's hard, that we know that aren't really out there. Those are the ones that we give you a lot of information about, a lot of detail and dates and things like that. So not so much on the Samuel Little.
The ones that aren't so popular, the ones that you never heard about. Right. There's even stories I've never heard of, and Brandy and them will bring them, and then when I go look at them, I'm like, what the heck? What?
Like Clementine Barnabas. I'd never heard of no Clementine Barnabas. But it was like 2:00 in the morning. Brandy's telling me about this, and I was like, hold on, and I was like, oh, let me add her to the list. So those things we can give you details about, because who knows about Clementine Barnabas? There was a few podcasts and one or two mentions in a couple podcasts. I did not listen to them on purpose. I may listen to them now, but I didn't listen to them at the time on purpose because I didn't want to be influenced by it, because it's very easy to listen to them. Like one of my favorite podcasts that I have not listened to since we started doing this last year is
Me either. And I just got an alert today.
Yes. I have not watched listened to Crime Junkies in a whole year.
Brandy put me on Crime Junkies. Let me tell you. I love binging. I started binging all the episodes after she told me. And I have not listened. I haven't listened to any. Yeah, I have to give a shout out to Crime Junkies, because honestly, that's what inspired me to want to do it. Listening to them, listening to Britt and Ashley talk about those crimes in such a very conversational way, very informative, but at the same time, really easy to listen to. And I'm like, and then one episode she did about Indigenous women, and she talked about how there's not a lot of information about women of color, crimes involving people of color, because they're underreported. And I was like, ding, 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 ding. That's what we're going to do. So yeah, got to give a shout out to Ashley and Britt from Crime Junkies. They're like the hottest crime podcast in the last 2 years. I think they're only almost 3 years old now, and they are I wish that we, hope that we can kind of achieve that level of success. And if you want a podcast, definitely, it's going to be like, when I listen to them, I imagine them sitting at a table with a drink and talking.
Yeah.
That's what I envision that they're doing when they're recording.
That's what
because it's such a smooth talk. It's like, yes, I know, right? And I heard this. Oh, well, this is information I got. Well, that's what, of course, we're a little bit more animated than they are. But that's why I enjoy our podcast so much. When we get together, when all three of us are together and we're talking, we really have no idea what we're going to say.
Oh, absolutely.
We get on here and it's then. Everything you hear is the first time we're hearing from each other. We don't know what the other person's thinking or saying or opinion or nothing. We just go with
that. Well, a couple weeks ago, we were talking about hood shirt shoes.
And we'll be going way off the edge.
That wasn't supposed to be there. That wasn't supposed to be.
But you see what had just happened? I just started talking about Skid Row and literally bounced from that moment
to something
else. Did you see that documentary? Right. I can't
just be off. So I'm quite sure we'll talk a little bit more about Cinnamon when Brandy's back because this was really something that she did want to talk about. So again, next week we will not have an episode because next Sunday we record on Sundays. We do not do this live. We will try in the future to do that. But we record on Sundays, and of course our show airs on Tuesdays. So next Sunday is Easter.
Unless you saw some, we did do live shows. I liked our live
I
shows.
did.
I like interacting with people, and people were like asking questions, and people were like, "You look up," and we'd be like, "No, we got 30." That's okay. Then we look up, we got 15, and people like sending a whole bunch. There's like a whole bunch going down, like, "Hey, what about this?
Yeah,
that's crazy."
Yeah,
I so love.
I get a lot of comments about, "Are you guys gonna do live? Are you guys gonna do
Live.
Working on that because we gotta make sure that we have our ducks in a row, that everyone is able to, technology is there for us to do it. And it's not that it's impossible. It's just that we ain't doing it. So, we tried to do it through Facebook a few times, but for whatever reason, Facebook
just devil.
It doesn't like us.
It never works out. Never.
We are planning for all of us to be in the same location in the next couple of months. So when that happens, we will definitely bring you a live show, which is guaranteed to be something else. So next week, we won't have a show next week. Of course, we will always post new things that we find on Al Gore's internet, on Instagram and Facebook, so you can always, of course, there. And then our next episode will be on April 6th. So we'll have an episode on April 6th. I lied, April 13th, because that's next week on Easter. We had on April 6th. So April 13th is going to be the next episode. Not sure what we're going to bring you, but we will definitely tell you. So again, go ahead and stalk our Facebook page, stalk Instagram, and leave us comments, and also leave comments under this video. Any last words for the folks this week, Jackie?
Stories coming up. Brandy works a later shift, and I'm in the middle of the night. We share a note, and in the middle of the night I can see her just randomly throwing stuff into our notes. And she really does. She's our creator. We're just behind her. So being here to tell. Let me tell you, when I tell y'all she legit knows this stuff, I don't know. She works a full-time job.
Something's wrong with y'all.
And she has full-time things to do. Listen, but she knows this. Her and Brandy, they are way better than me. I'm trying to be as good as them. But
my quest for doing this, my knowledge of serial killers and murders is only to protect myself. Because I just want to know, if I run across a serial killer, that I'm able to identify them and somehow get away. That's it. That's my fact.
Oh, and that's not a lie. She said this. She said this before we even thought about the podcast.
Yeah, I just want to be able to identify a serial killer, by their actions, things that they say, and be able to get away from it. Because I don't want to be on this show. I don't want to be on Crime Junkies, and I don't want to be on ID Discovery. Yeah. And I tell people that, if I've gone on dates or whatever, they're like, let's just go over here. This is a ID Discovery. This is Evil Lives Here waiting to happen. I ain't about to do it.
I'm just trying to figure out if I did decide to do something, how to do it. What not to do.
What not to do. So that's how I'm just in this for survival purposes only. So until we see you next time on April 13th, what am I supposed to say?
Easter.
Happy Easter. Yeah, that part. So yeah.